Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in today. And in today's video, we talk with Alexandera Houchin, who just finished the Colorado Trail. She and I actually just completed the Colorado Trail race, and we both took first in our respective divisions, which is really cool. But I wanted to sit down and just chat with her and have a conversation about the Colorado Trail as a whole, her past experiences, and how this year went, some gear talk, everything. So we have a really fun conversation, and I hope you can enjoy this video as much as I enjoyed chatting with her. As always, make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell if you like what you see in these videos. And if you want to congratulate Alexandra, definitely leave a comment in the comment section below. And if you want to help support us a little bit more, you can do that by signing up for the Bikepacking Collective. The Bikepacking Collective is BIKEPACKING.com's annual membership. And if you want to learn all things about the Bikepacking Collective, there is a link below with all of the details. As always, thank you all so much for the support and enjoy. How are you feeling?
God, I feel so lazy.
Don't you?
I hung around in Estes until Monday, and I got to the goddamn airport, and my flight was delayed 6 hours.
Oh, shoot.
Because there was a crack in the windshield, which, okay, that's valid, but
that's definitely valid.
They needed to have a micrometer to measure it to see if it was within tolerance, which it was, but they didn't have a micrometer, and they had to fly one in from somewhere else.
Wait, so they measured to see if the glass is not going to break,
so that they could still fly.
Wow.
I ended up missing my connecting flight because of it.
Right.
So then I had to have a friend drive all the way from Cloquet.
Yep.
To Minneapolis to pick me up and then drive me back home. It was just I didn't get home till 2:30. Oh. And then I had to work on Tuesday, which was the reason I was I can't really just stay in the airport overnight. I just also didn't have it in me to sleep in the airport.
No, definitely not. Well, I guess let's start with that, because a lot of people probably don't know where you're from. So where are you from? And I guess, what have you been doing? You've been going to school the past few years, or what?
I'm from Cloquet, Minnesota, which is a small little reservation border town about 25 miles west of Duluth. And I've been going to school for the last 5 years. I graduated in spring 2020, finally, with my undergrad.
Yeah. Woo. Congrats. That's awesome.
Thank you. That was a decade long of trying to go to college to finish it. So I'm happy I finally did.
Heck yeah. I've always been curious though, up there, living in Duluth area, Cloquet area. I've been there a handful of times. It's really awesome. I love that whole zone, especially north of there. But what's your go-to riding? Where are you gonna go ride for just a day ride out of your house there?
So I live in Cloquet. I live about a half a mile from Cloquet's trail system. It's called Pine Valley, and it's pretty small. It's only about 5 miles or so, but it's really nice, single track. Some of it's chunky. You can actually get some climbing up onto the ridge, and then there's a lot of little whoopies and wooden features and just a lot of stuff to work on your skill. So I'll just go out and do 2 laps of everything, and that's a 2-mile solid good little workout if I'm just looking to go from my house.
Yep.
Otherwise, there's a ton of really good technical riding in Duluth proper, and I work in Duluth sometimes, so I'll go to Duluth before work, ride some of the trails, and then come home. Or I have a bunch of friends too who I ride with up in Duluth.
What are you doing for work right now?
Oh man, I'm overworked. It was the biggest mistake of the pandemic. I had been planning on going to dental school up until the time I graduated. I had studied for my dental school admissions tests. And then the pandemic happened, and I wasn't able to do any of the volunteer stuff that you have to have for your application. The tests were all postponed, and I just decided I'd wait a year and take a gap year. So I ended up accepting a fellowship where I kind of proposed this project scope of creating a nonprofit rooted in bikes somehow on the reservation, and then also like
Well,
working for the planning division of my tribe. And then I also work part-time at the university in Duluth, at the University of Minnesota, in the Department of American Indian Studies. My job there is I'm the community outreach coordinator, so I like connect students and people to the program and whatever else kind of needs to be done. And then I work just one day a week at Continental Ski and Bike as a mechanic.
that's a lot.
It's too much. It's too much.
You've
And then I try to race bikes.
and you're racing bikes, you're training, you're just yeah, that's a
I'm
lot
not,
of stuff.
I'm not training, which was why going into the Colorado Trail race was. I mean, I had zero expectations, but
Yeah.
I was not ready.
All right, so let's talk about something that I've done the past year and a half. I've had a coach. Like I've been like trying to like hammer in like as many miles as I can, a lot of really strategic miles, like trying to do all these intervals and all of this just ridiculous stuff, yoga, core training, because I wanted to do the Tour Divide and that just didn't happen and whatever. But what does your schedule look like with all of that? You're trying to weigh work and play, I'm sure, and just having fun and starting with the Arizona Trail. You did that in March. Was that like kind of like a training run for the Colorado Trail, or were you doing more stuff?
No, so I spent a lot of time this winter actually fat biking. I was training with a group of women who had never raced bikes before, so I was riding bikes a lot to get this group of people ready for their first fat bike race. So I think that's kind of where my fitness started. And then I decided to start doing CrossFit, and I was going to
Ooh.
CrossFit 3 days a week. Dude, CrossFit was awesome. It's an awesome community, and it's some serious intervals. Yeah, I was doing CrossFit like 3 days a week, and then also running and biking and but not like training for those things, just running and biking because I have a dog and I like to ride bikes.
Yeah.
And then I went out to do the Arizona Trail race, which was kind of impromptu. Like all of a sudden, all of my close friends were like free during that week, and we're like, let's get together. And we were gonna go on a chill like bike packing trip or something. And then I was like, wait, what if we all race each other, ITT style?
Yeah.
In a grand depart, so there was like 7 or 8 of us, I think.
The potato caboose.
Yeah, the potato sack race. It's legendary.
That's awesome.
It was so sick. I was like, let's make a theme, and I think I was the one that picked potatoes. It was really fun to see everybody kind of come up with their potato pseudonyms.
Yep.
I of course like all my friends are super fast and super strong. So on day 1 of the Arizona Trail race, I was like 6 hours behind them all, and I just decided I was going to bike through the night. I was going to try something. I'd never really biked 24-hour round during an ultra that lasts more than 24 hours. So that was my first time really screwing around with no sleep, which was kind of garbage because at some point I just spent like hours sitting there like this, like I'm so tired. Why don't I go to sleep? I can't go to sleep. I've wasted all this time now. Now I can't sleep. But ended up finishing pretty strong.
Yeah.
It was so hot, dude. I fainted. That was the first time I've ever fainted from the heat. It was like in the Gila River.
Yep.
Valley, and
It gets hot there.
It was so hot. Well, that like that canyon, as soon as you like after you cross the bridge, after you get out of Ripsey.
Yep. Right.
There's that canyon. Oh, it was so hot. I kept looking down to see if footprints from my friends, and I didn't see any goddamn footprints. And God, they're riding. I should be riding.
Yeah, right. I
Just
hate that
rats.
feeling.
Like,
Yeah.
you're searching for their footprints.
Yep.
But so I fainted, and then I was like, okay, I have to go. I went and laid in the river for a few minutes and was bonked pretty bad by the time I got to that first climb up into Martinez. And then I saw my friend Ben, and he's a wild character. He ended up waking me up, and I never have ridden so hard and so effortlessly with somebody ever in my entire life. It was like one of the most magical moments. But we finished Martinez as super fast. That was like the fastest I could have ever imagined. If I was doing that alone, if I didn't see that person, like my competitor, come reinvigorate me, I for sure would have taken like 6 more hours to finish, I bet.
That time you finished, it was a single speed record, wasn't it, this year?
Yeah, it was the women's single speed record.
Women's single speed record.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool. I've gotten pretty obsessed with scooping up the single speed, the ladies' single speed records.
Well, I mean,
and I will defend that until I die at this point.
Well, you should. I mean, that's any record is impressive, but single speed is, I mean, we were talking about this at the finish the other day. I was like, I can't even imagine riding any of these ultra single speed, because it's just like you're hiking so much more, right?
I don't know what it was about this year or why it stood out so much more to me, how hard single speed. I think it's because I've been riding more geared bikes in my day-to-day life, because I have geared bikes finally. And when I go riding with my friends, or I took a bike packing trip in Idaho a month ago and rode a geared bike for that whole trip, and it's just different. So like in the altitude, I really struggle with the altitude coming from, like I live at, I don't know, it might be 1,000 feet here, 800 or 1,000 feet, but practically sea level. And then coming out to these races into 12,000, 13,000 feet, it's just impossible to breathe. But I can pedal if I'm sitting in the saddle, it's just like, it doesn't take as much energy or whatnot. But as soon as I get out of the saddle to climb, which is like most of the time on a single speed, I would get so out of breath, and my legs would just like not work. So I was thinking a lot about like, wow, I could definitely pedal a lot more if I was on my geared bike. Dang. But then like the beautiful part of it, dude, is like, I can't lie to myself about my fitness. I knew going into it that I wasn't as fit as I wanted to be. But when you have that single speed, it's like you can either do it or you can't. And there's like no half-ass in between it. And it might be my favorite part about it. It's like, it's super honest and super humbling.
That's a really interesting point. That could be that could be my go-to for just not having to train as much, but knowing like you're either on it or you're not. And I love that. It's really, really interesting.
There's no in between. There's no like downshifting.
Right.
You just can do it.
You can either pedal or you're walking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's dive into this year's Colorado Trail. So this is your third try at the Colorado Trail now?
This was my fourth race finish.
Okay. So you raced in 2018. So have you raced since 2018 then?
Yeah, I did. I raced 2018, and then that was the first time I was going to yo-yo it.
Yeah.
So I raced it, finished in just shy of 7 days. I think it was like 6 days, 18 hours or something like that.
Yep.
That was my first time. My first introduction to the Colorado Trail. I had no idea what I was getting into. It was super epic. And then I decided to turn around and do a yo-yo, except by the time I got to Los Pinos, I decided that I did not want to do Sergeant's Mesa. So I bopped over to Gunnison, stayed at the hostel, ate a bunch of ice cream, and then bopped over to BV. So I skipped Sargent's and Mount Chavanel, which are two of the notorious. Like, I finally have grown to love Sargent's, but I still hate Mount Chavanel. Like, I don't know why I hate it so much too. I just like it's torture every time I do that section.
Yeah, it's interesting because, it's not like super, super rocky or anything. It's just, yeah, there's like a steady, steep climb. And then, I mean, you get down to the Chavanel River there, and then you climb again if you're going northbound or eastbound. I actually don't really mind Sargent's, just because it's like a lot of like at least like either direction you're going, you're probably walking quite a bit, or you're descending some really chunky terrain if you're going westbound, and it's like, yeah, I think I could do this. It's not too bad. But I think the section that I really just don't enjoy is after Coney's section, doing Gerosa Mesa. That like section where there's like a ton of rocks and you can't like actually get a flow going. Either direction you go, it's just like, come on, I just want to stay on the bike, but I can't. So that's my like,
Yeah.
I hate that. And you're at like 12,000 feet. It's just not it's a challenge altogether. All right. So where did you get on day one? Did you deal with the rain? Where did you stop and sleep for the night out of Durango?
Oh, day one this year. I made it to, I almost made it over Rolling Pass. I was about 400 feet from the summit of Rolling Pass. The rain had started, pretty much I climbed Blackhawk, and you could see it was just about to open up. So about 10 minutes after Blackhawk, it started to sprinkle on and off. And then the full-on rain came, I don't even know what section. That's like right at the parking lot. After, is it the Highline Trail? Like the Highline Trail
Yeah.
kind of goes, and then there's like a big parking lot space.
Right. Yep.
You're on that road for a little bit, and then you turn back onto trail. That's where I ended up putting on my full rain gear, and spent the next it was like six more hours trying to ride. But like I'm a pretty good technical mountain biker. And the trails were just flowing with water. All the roots and all the rocks were so slippery. And it just was like so frustrating to go so slow on the descents, just because like you couldn't go fast. I tried to go fast a couple times and I'd totally slip out and tip over. But it was cold and soaking wet. And like, I made the genius idea. I was like, my legs always get cold and wet anyway, so I cut my rain pants into like short knee-high pants. So
Yeah.
they were wet. I was just soaked from the bottom down, and I don't know if it made any better or made it any worse.
Like you cut them. Where did you cut them? Like above the knee?
Right at the knee.
At the knee.
My knees were kind of covered-ish.
Okay. Yeah.
But like I wish I would have had a little bit longer shorts or something. It was just so cold.
Yeah.
And the wetness on the rain pants was sticking to my legs. And like the past, I maybe would have just put my leggings on underneath to keep it like some sort of warmth. But I was really cold, which was what made me decide I was like, okay, I'm just going to sleep. So I set up my tarp. And I brought a sleeping pad this time because I knew it was going to be wet. So I brought 2 tarps. One to lay on, a sleeping pad, and then one to go over. And they're like super lightweight tarps, so it was like my sleep kit was really little. But I took off all my wet clothes and put on all my dry stuff and slept for like 3 hours, I think.
Nice.
And then got back at it. But it was just so slow moving again in the morning. By the time that I woke up, I didn't get into Silverton until 7 a.m., which that's late. I was not expecting to get there so late. In the past, I've done it. I get there at like 4:30,
Yeah.
4, and that's after sleeping still back there.
Yep. Did you anticipate going and busting through Silverton without resupply, or how was that? How did you strategize that?
in Durango, I always pack to get enough. I always pack enough food to get to BV because I'm not fast enough to make it to Silverton on day one, and I don't want to have to wait for the store to open I don't want to spend that much time in the grocery store if I can resist
Yeah.
it. So I'd rather just carry all the food with. So I had all my food to get me to BV.
And so how do you figure out your calories for that? Do you do any math, or do you just chuck it all in the bag and be like, I think this is enough?
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. I put as much possible food on my bike and my person as I can, and I mean, that's all I can do, right? Like I
Yeah.
couldn't bring any more food with me anyways.
Yep.
And those first couple days are so hard to eat anyways. I just tried to I screwed up. I brought like Amy's frozen burritos, which I think I've liked in the past.
Mm.
But there's like broccoli and corn, and I was just like so grossed out by all the vegetables. All I wanted was like beans and rice. So I vowed never to bring Amy's burritos ever again. It was
Nice.
just too much flavor for
Yeah.
a nauseated belly.
Right. Exactly. So you got to Buena Vista. How much food did you have left over? A lot or not much?
Not a lot, but maybe like 6 more hours worth of
Okay.
food.
Yeah. Plenty.
Yeah,
Enough.
there was no I was not about to run out. Plus you go through Princeton. If you're getting close to running out, you can
Yeah.
pop into Princeton and buy a snack or something there. And I did stupidly run out of water on my climb up to the trail from Mount Princeton. It was like
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
one after you get off the trail, Mount Chauvenot,
Yep.
that big pavement climb, and then you go
Yeah.
through the big dirt whoopies.
Mm-hmm.
I It was so hot. It was like
Yeah.
2 in the afternoon or something when I was going up it, and I drank all my water before I even got off the pavement. It was so hot. The ground was radiating heat. I like legitimately had to stop in the shade
Yep.
and collect myself.
Mm-hmm. That stretch.
It totally ran out of water.
Yeah.
It sucked. I'm so embarrassed.
That stretch is hot. Like from even up to like Leadville, that whole area is just a little bit warmer. And even though you're still at like 9,000 feet, it's warm for sure. I remember I had to get water. I ran out of water too, and I had to get water at that creek right by Rainbow Lake, I think it is.
Yeah, it's such a hot section, and then you get through all that. You have like that 20 miles of nice trail or whatever until you get to that trail that you go north outside, like out of BV, the
Oh,
single track
yeah, yeah, yeah.
where you start to the highway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's like the most painful section of the whole entire route, I think, because you're like, I'm ready to get to BV, and it's
And you have
just
to
like,
go out of the way to go. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, where you go out of the way to go back over
Yeah,
to the trail again, or
yeah.
to get to the highway.
The
And the worst
Cottonwood
part is
Pass
like,
Road. Yep.
yeah, Cottonwood Pass Road. Well, you pass that freaking road.
That brings you right there.
You
Exactly.
just go out onto Cottonwood Pass.
There is some sections on not only Colorado Trail but Arizona Trail that do that, and it's so frustrating because it's like I could just literally like cut right here and I'm there, but no, I have to go 3-4 miles around because that's the actual trail. But yeah, it makes sense because the hikers trail kind of butts out like right there on the other side, but we have to take the road because of wilderness detours. But for the race, it's funny for sure.
Yeah, and I 1000% get it, but it does not mean I'm not going to bitch about it in the
No.
moment.
Yeah. You were running a 3424 single speed setup, right?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. What was Hefe running?
Hefe, I think he was on a 3324, I want to say.
Okay.
It was some weird ass ratio.
Yeah.
Justin, second place single speed.
Yeah.
Justin's riding 3223.
3223. Okay.
And I only rode that gear ratio because that was the only chain ring that I
Yeah.
had. Because I got a new bike for this race, and that was a switching of a cranksets.
Mm-hmm.
I've been running the absolute black like cinch chain rings for so long. I
Yep.
have like
Tons of them.
20 of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have like every possible size you could ever imagine.
Right.
But the white industries, you need the camo, and it's just different
Yep.
chain rings. I forgot. So I'm
Yeah.
like going to get my bike ready, and I'm like, shit. And I didn't have a 24 tooth cog before either. I found one online that was way too expensive, but
Yeah.
I needed it. So it's more of this is all I have to run. And I thought it would be okay, but it was too hard.
You found yourself just having to walk a lot of the climbs.
I mean, usually the first day or two I walk anyways, just because I can't breathe in the altitude. But I walked so much. I was on and off the bike. I was trying so hard to push the gears, and I don't know. I bet people thought I was just out for
A walk.
taking my bike for a walk. I don't know if anybody saw me riding my bike at all during the race.
That's classic. That's kind of how the Colorado Trail is. I mean, it's not easy.
It is not easy. It's so hard. That ride is so hard.
I was talking about the climb out of Durango yesterday and how it's basically 6,000 feet, 30 miles. You start at 6.5 and you top out at 12. And then you're up high like the rest of the day. And basically you drop into Silverton and then you're up high the rest of that day until you drop into off Slumgullion Pass. It's like you're at 12,000. You're probably averaging like 12,000 feet like that whole time. It's just like, damn. And so you living in Cloquet, training and maybe not training, but like just riding, like how awesome would it be if you had like a month out here to just get prepared and actually do some of this stuff beforehand?
I think that, I mean, that's what the direction that I'd like to go, to at least like come out. I was talking to Justin about it and trying to coordinate like every month have like a training, like some sort of altitude thing where we train in the high mountains, and then as it gets closer to a race, spend like a few weeks out beforehand doing it, or just like normalize it a little bit more. I've done everything to like look at. It's like, okay, should I get one of those stupid masks to exercise in? Because
I did research on that when I moved to Minneapolis. It doesn't work.
that's what the research I did. I was like trying to see if it would actually work, but everything I read said it doesn't. Or like looked at renting an altitude tent,
Yeah.
like all that stuff, because I was like, I want to be competitive, but I just like can't do that altitude thing, and I know that I could be a lot stronger if I did have some altitude training.
Honestly, when I moved to Minneapolis, I was like, no way would I ever consider doing the Colorado Trail because I was scared. Like literally felt scared, and maybe that's silly of me. But my hat's off to you for doing that because it is not easy. And I know like for me, even just like having to train, like having to like go up to like 12,000 feet just to like feel like I actually belong in the race and like feel comfortable. Like it's just more of an anxiety thing for me. So I wish I had your like way of just entering a race because I would be so much less stressed out.
I know
Seriously.
I mean, I love racing so much. I love winning too. Don't get me wrong. I know you know what that feels like, but I'm also like very aware of, I'm very honest with myself about where I'm at physically, just because I've done so much of this and been doing it for so long that I know when I'm in shape and I know when I'm out of shape and I know when I can have expectations and when I can't have expectations, or like going into a race with the intention of like trying my best and winning, but like not being tied to that as a gauge of how good or bad the race was. Just like,
Yep.
I would love to win women's I would love to win overall single speed,
Hmm.
but sometimes that's just not going to happen. I do think single speed really helps a lot because at the end of the day, I don't know if it is a handicap. I don't know if that is
Justin,
if I feel, but what did
yeah,
Justin say?
what didn't he say something about? Oh, he was like, and we're talking about Justin, yeah,
Dubois.
Dubois, and he's a great dude. But at the end of your race, he met you there. I met you there, and
Yeah.
he was saying, yeah, it's like when you ride single speed, you're just like on your own schedule. You don't have to worry about the geared person. You might have to worry about another single speed person, but typically it's like you and the race instead of you and the race and the racers. So I was like, oh, that's probably a lot less stressful.
It really is, and it's like 1000% you against yourself because you chose your gear ratio first off. Um, just looking at me, Justin, and Hefe, like we all had different gear ratios. So like at the end of the day, we're not racing each other's bikes.
Hmm.
We're racing each other's bodies. And I'm not going to be butthurt for losing to Hefe because Hefe's done this a million times and picked a better gear ratio. And, just like little things where it becomes more about me and my own body
Yeah,
and has nothing to do with like my inadequacy against other people.
that's pretty cool. I want to try it.
You
I'm
should,
going
dude.
to.
You should/shouldn't because I feel like you'll crush it.
No. Well, I just need to go out for a 10-mile ride first. That's the thing. And then
Yeah, but the thing is, is like some of that shit doesn't kick in until like 110
yeah,
miles,
right.
I don't know if I would love single speed as much if I didn't have some of those like magical moments. Like that moment I had with Ben in Martinez,
Hmm.
climbing out of Martinez Canyon, where I was not out of breath and I was literally riding everything, all the techie stuff, all the tight corners, all the climbs. Like I was like, what has happened to me? What took over? I just like wasn't out of breath. I could have gone forever. And it was such bike high that I've never felt that since,
That's
but
pretty cool.
I hope to feel it again.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. What was the most magical moment on trail for you out there? For me, this year, it was definitely just cresting a handful of mountain passes at night that I haven't done really at night. I've always either done them in, daylight or sunrise, sunset, but I did most of these in the middle of the night. So what was your like, this is why I keep coming back to the Colorado Trail moment?
There's so many magical moments that happen like that, but I did my wildest, craziest push of mountains. I climbed like 8 mountains or something before I went to sleep. Um, and it kind of in the middle of that was at the end of that first night. Um, we I was riding with this guy named Brad and this guy named Nick on and off. We had met around Tennessee Pass time, so we started to climb Kokomo together, and there's that waterfall like right at the base of
Oh yeah.
Kokomo,
Yep.
by the bridge.
Yep.
And it was so hot, so we all got off our bikes. I took off my socks and shoes and all my stuff and went and got under the waterfall and got soaked and soaked
Awesome.
my bandana, and I was like, oh, that felt so great. And the boys got their heads wet. Brad ended up getting his feet soaked again. I was like, why didn't you take your shoes off, dude? Like finally after getting dry feet.
Right.
But anyways, we climbed up in the heat and that, and it was a little exhausting. And then coming into Copper, like that's a rip and descent down Searle, but
Oh
then
yeah.
you have to like climb a little bit
Yeah.
before you get to the highway, which is like
Mm.
the worst.
Yep.
I forget. I
Yep.
forget how bad that section is. And all the guys that I was riding with, or both of the guys I was riding with, got off the trail to go into town to refuel or whatnot, and I just kept going on the trail.
Hmm.
And I ran into Eddie Clark,
Oh,
He was
nice.
out there taking a couple photos.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Um, so I saw him at the base, and the only time I see him is out in these random races,
Right.
and he's kind of like the grandfathered in photographer. He's
Yep.
like the only one that I would let catch up with me like that.
Right,
When
right.
it's always good to hear about his family and his career. So he walked with me a little bit and took some photos, and then I carried on up 10 Mile all by myself, and I could, it's covered with trees, but I could hear thunder.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, I don't think about it. I just go until it feels like, then I'll look around at some point, once I start to get to a situation where I have to make a decision. But I couldn't see any lightning, but I could hear the thunder. And I was just going up the pass all by myself, really, really slow. I
Hmm.
didn't know if the guys were going to stay in Copper or if they had eaten or whatnot. And it was starting to get dark. And right by the time I made it out of the tree line, I finally saw somebody behind me, and I was like, "Oh, fun!" You could see the lightning and the storms were gathering over Wheeler, like
Okay.
real intense over there. And it was really intensely lightning on the other side of the range, but 10 Mile itself was completely clear.
Nice.
It was windy, but you could you can look up and see the constellations, and they like feel like they're your personal, kitchen utensils. Like you could just grab that stuff out of the sky. And it was just so like I couldn't find my batteries for my headlamp, and I had broken my other headlamp, and the guys went on. So I was like all by myself, and finally got everything situated and just like looked around, and it was so magical. And then I saw right up ahead, Brad was still up on the mountain, and it was just like those moments where I've climbed 10 Mile at dark so many times, but always by myself. I just had never had it with another person to be like, am I really thinking
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
So it was, I don't know. I've never had a moment like that where it was just like lightning. It was like a circle of lightning all around us, and we were the only safe spot in the entire world, it seemed.
Dang.
It was epic.
I think those views up there are probably some of the best too. And even though they're like views down to town, it's like it really does make you feel pretty darn small. And I think that's super special, especially on the CT. It's like, yeah, we're ants here. That's all we are.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a really intense, amazing summit. Plus the descent down, the descent down that side is just chunky.
Yeah.
And those tree roots,
It
those are insane.
they improved it though. It's not nearly as like harsh on the body anymore. That new like kind of detour that they made. I'm a
Yeah.
big fan.
Yeah, no, it's just wild and fast, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of moments where I'm like, well, just your bike just wants to roll. You just hold
Hold
on and
on.
hope that you don't go off of your bike.
The last little bit of the CT, what was that last like 24 hours like? So you lost your spot tracker. Talk about that, and then talk about just the dumpage of rain that you endured
Uh,
that last little bit.
Georgia Pass was in that series. I had started riding from Clear Creek just outside of the BV detour, out on the other side of Twin Lakes. So I'd started riding there at 5:30 on Thursday morning, and rode from there all the way through Tennessee Pass and Kokomo and Searle, and all the way over 10 Mile, and then all the way up that first fake, I call it fake Georgia.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
massive climb.
yeah, it's a massive climb for not actually being Georgia.
Yep.
And then on through to Georgia. And by that time it was like 7:30 in the morning. So I'd been riding my bike for 24 hours. Or pushing my bike up mountains rather. And there's this like really bouldery section at the start of climbing Georgia, and my arms just like they weren't working. They weren't gonna get my bike up over it. So I put my bike on my back, and it kept sliding because I have a well, it's not a new backpack, but it's a newer backpack since I've been bike packing, and it doesn't really have anything on the top. It's just like a mesh thing. It's mostly hip pack. So my old bike used to rest on my old backpack. So I could hike with it on my shoulders and no problem. But this just kept sliding down. And finally it got caught on something. And I was like, sweet. It's just hanging there on something. And I'm hiking up Georgia. And then my rear tire gets caught on a tree.
Sure.
And like the pedal digs into my back. And I'm like super pissed. And I throw my bike off my back. And it gets caught on my backpack. And I hear something rip. And I dropped my phone. Like a bunch of chaotic stuff happened all at one time. And I was like, I just want to get up this mountain. And like an hour and a half later, I get to the summit and I check track leaders to see how far Brad is ahead of me. And it says that my tracker is an hour and a half back down the trail. I was like, I thought about going to find it because it's like $300 tracker, you know?
Yeah. What was it? It was an InReach?
Yeah, it's an InReach Mini, but I was like, fuck it. I am not gonna I don't care. I don't care about it at all. I was still checking on my Garmin. So I was like, if anybody has any questions, they can look at my Garmin route. So I lost it back there, needless to say. And I was about an hour and a half behind Brad. And I was like intent on catching him. And I know that I'm really good on the Terriall Detour. Like that is the perfect place for single speeders, especially after you've been warming up for the last 5 days. Like I was ready to slay those climbs. Anyways, I get off the highway. The highway is terrible for a single speeder, I'll have you know. The first 6 miles, I'm like, this is the worst.
Is it because you can't quite like get on top of the pedal and it's just like a slight downhill? And you just can't you're just like kind of coasting until you hit one of the climbs. Yeah,
totally. You're like coasting, or you can like, it's just very slow. And I always get passed by road or geared bikers every time I do it. Not this year, there wasn't anybody by me close enough, but so that part is painful. First 6 miles, I was like, F this, I want to quit. The next 6 miles, I was like, okay, I'm going to try and be happy. And then the last 6 miles, I was like, oh, this is you're resting up so that you can shred the Terriall Detour. So I get into that road, like Mukut Fat or whatever that road is.
Like the dirt part, finally?
The dirt part off the highway.
Yeah.
And it was really, really headwindy, but I rode that whole thing. But as soon as you come over the summit of that, you can see all the way into that Terriall Valley.
Gorgeous.
It is incredible.
It's so burnt, high, but it's gorgeous. Yeah, it's wide open.
It's magical. You're like, oh, there's some fun riding in there.
Oh yeah.
Except the lightning was cracking to my left. The lightning was cracking to my right. As far as I could see, the skies were black and it was thundering and lightning insanely. And I was like, I'm pretty terrified. I just want to get low. So I biked as hard as I could to get to that first descent. And none of the rain had started yet. And then I was able to climb the next one. And then as I was descending to Goose Creek, the sky just opened up and the hail and the rain and like all sorts of stuff just started spilling out of the sky. And I had made it to that like octagon toilet in the campground.
Oh yeah.
Like really stinky one. But I was safe there. So I waited that out for like half an hour.
Nice.
And it was just sprinkling after that for a while. But then as you start to drop, you know, because you do these big climbs and then you drop a little, and you do a big climb and then you drop a little, and you get lower and lower. And the rain just kept coming, and the hail was coming, and the ground, by the time you get to the bottom of the Terriall Detour, is like was swollen with water. There was like trenches on the side of the road, and it just like I just couldn't pedal. I was standing up to pedal on flat ground, and I was devastated. I think I passed a stage top around 1 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And in past years, it's about 7 hours for me, 8 hours from the stage stop to segment 3.
Yep.
And I didn't get to segment 3 until after 1 a.m., which was almost 48 hours of biking straight. And I was thrashed.
I bet. I actually noticed this basically throughout the whole trail. Like there was so many ruts and stuff created from the rain that like you kind of had to like be on your toes. You had to like be like, all right, I'm not gonna just like rage through this. I need to like maybe hop over it a little bit or something like that. Especially going down from like Slumgullion Pass. I forget that gravel road that brings you to Los Pinos Pass. That road was just thrashed. Like it was in bad shape. So yeah, I can kind of see what you're saying, and that's just like it's just I guess part of it. But this year, I mean, these monsoons have really done a number on the trail.
Yeah, it was pretty devastating because I had been riding with Brad, and we rode together for a lot of time. And it was my goddamn idea to finish in 5 days. And he's like, wait, it's still realistic? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I just couldn't catch him. And I was so pissed.
He finished in what, like 5:20?
He did 5:23, like 20 or something. I mean, I'm super happy for him, but that motherfucker stole my thunder.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I was like, oh, I'm gonna come up and get him. And as soon as I got to that part in the road, I walked for like 20 miles on a flat road. I swear, I didn't see any of his tire tracks or anything. And I was like, oh, he must have made it out the other side before it got all garbage. It was heartbreaking. I ended up, by the time I got to segment 3, I did the math, and I was like, well, I'm definitely not finishing in record time. And I slept for a few hours and had a slow finish.
So your fastest time is 6 days and 1 hour and change?
Correct, yeah.
And this year, that's the single speed record, overall record? Overall women's record?
Overall women's record for that, well, I like to think it is, but Jeannie Dre is... There's a woman who raced it with her husband, which I don't think is self-supported. So that's just my opinion. But so she has a 5.5 day finish though.
So that's just kind of hanging on the record books until it actually gets broken. But we can mark you as probably the fastest self-supported rider out there.
Self-supported rider, yeah. So I will say that, but I do believe that I can go definitely faster, especially if I had some altitude training and actually trained.
What's your favorite direction to do it?
Go to Denver.
You like it that way?
Eastbound, 5,000%.
I think it's easier just because you like do all that stuff first, and it's like you're not dealing with all of that junk. All of the high altitude stuff at the end of the race when your legs are completely thrashed. At least that's like my experience the last few years, just like at least this year too, just realizing, I'd way rather climb 6,000 feet with fresh legs than do all that stuff at the end of the race for sure.
Well, and it's the weather too creeps up in the San Juans, and I just like I did it last year. I did an ITT last year. That was a mess of an ITT. I broke my dropper post. Everything just fell apart, and I was like barely hanging on by the time I made it back to Durango. But like the first 3 days were great, and then the rain and the hail and the lightning and the thunder, and like you're already mentally broken by then, and a bunch of shitty things had happened with me and my friend that were going out, and then my stuff was break. I just like that. It's so hard to finish Denver to Durango way, I think.
A few more questions here, some quicker ones. So you were riding, and I didn't realize this actually, but at the finish I saw you you're wearing regular shoes, no boots this time. What was the deal with that?
I see so many like cool looking badass dudes walking around in their 510s.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm like, ooh, those look cute. Those are cool. Maybe I can be cute and cool too. And I got them for a discount, so I bought a pair this year, and uh, they're garbage shoes. They're terrible. I
You don't
hate
like them?
them.
Yeah.
I know, like, I'd rather wear my New Balances, man.
Yeah.
I wore them for the AZT 300, and then, random local riding that I do here, and then Colorado Trail. I'm halfway through the Colorado Trail, like there were holes in the bottom, and the
Oh, wow.
rocks were pushing up into the shoes. I was like, these are so stupid.
Yeah.
So I thought I was cool by wearing them, but I don't know. I thought maybe even something special was about them, but they're just normal crappy shoes.
They've got a name recognition and people use them.
Yeah, it's not like I do have a pair of the 510 approach shoes that I had gotten 6 or 7 years ago, not 6 or maybe 5 years ago, that I wear sometimes. I don't wear them that often.
Mm-hmm.
And those were like, they're kind of stiff and more rubbery. Like I loved my boots because of how stiff they were, and like I could never feel a rock in the bottom of them, and I bashed my toes all the time.
Right.
And they were steel toe, and they were like totally safe and good. I've had them for a really long time. I've peed on them more times than any human should ever pee on their shoes. And they are just apocalyptic. They're not good. So I was like, I just can't bring myself to wear these again, especially because I knew it was going to be wet. I was like, if those things get wet, it smells like it's pretty bad.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. You still have them though?
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we go.
Yeah.
We've been through a lot. How
Yeah.
many, like, dude, they've been through like 3 Tour Divides, 3 Colorado Trail races, 2 Arizona Trail. Like they've been through so many adventures, and like they're still wearable.
Yeah.
They're just pretty gross.
Yeah, sure. What was this new bike you were on? You were on a Chumba Sendero?
Yeah, the Chumba Sendero, kind of.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Vince had reached. Vince is one half of Team Chumba. I lied. He's not one half because there's a million Team Chumba. But it's Mark and Vince who own Chumba and their wives. But Vince had contacted me and said, "Hey, we have an idea. We want to get you a custom bike." And it was like, I think in the blueprints, it was like Alexandra's freaking fast bike or something.
Yeah.
But it's loosely based off of Sendero geometry, and we did a few little tweaks to dial it in to exactly like what would be most comfortable for me and my own body. And then Mark handmade it. It's a handmade tie bike in-house. Usually they do all their tie stuff with Linsky.
Yep.
But they're starting in-house tie production this year, and I feel pretty lucky to have like the first one out and about doing it.
What was so custom about it, or what was tweaked more or less?
So we did some work with chains, the rear stays, and accommodating the range of chain rings that I wanted, because I wanted it to be able to function for Tour Divide as well as these mountain bike races. I was really feeling I had been really feeling Tour Divide. Now I'm kind of like, I don't know so much about it. I just love mountain biking so much.
It's way better.
It's way better. Like
it's really nice to not be next to cars.
Yeah, like no cars, no people. Like, in fact, I really don't like people either. Like when you're in the middle of the woods, nowhere, like all those people also pretty much probably don't like people. So it's good. But chainstay stuff, head tube stuff, which I think the head tube is probably similar to or exactly spec'd out to what the other Sendero is. I don't remember all the specs from it, but I think the seats or the chainstays are probably the biggest deviation.
It looks good. The bike looked awesome, that's for sure. And Thai, like in-house Thai, they're doing that now. Like that's really cool. I remember riding a Stella, one of the first ones from Linsky years ago for the Tour Divide in 2015, and I was just like, this thing is awesome. So it's really cool that they're doing that all in-house, or at least this Sendero in-house.
I can't say enough good things about the guys at Chumba.
Yeah.
I got hooked up with them in such an authentic way, and they've been my biggest supporters, providing me with so many different bikes and everything that I need to be successful in these races. And I just like, I'm so stoked to have like a bike that's made here, that is made by an artist, that is doing this to support his family. Just
Yeah.
like, it's really beautiful.
Is there muscle fatigue, hand fatigue, anything going on? My hands are just like, they're just not there
This
yet.
this hand,
The right one? Yeah.
yeah, my right hand is, I can't feel these four fingers, my
Oh,
thumb and
okay. Yep.
fingers. And I think that's because I didn't chop my handlebars.
They were
Uh,
really wide.
they're a full on 800 with the bar ends.
Yeah. They looked wider when I saw it.
It was huge. And I had thought, so I had done my test riding with the bike with my gears, and it was fine. You know, I didn't ever have to walk, and it was fine. And I was like, I want to keep them wide so I can have more leverage to
Sure.
single speed with.
Yep.
But I think what happened was that the Hike bikes ruined me by overextending my arm and like I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it was just too wide for my arms, and I pinched a nerve.
Yep.
I
Doesn't
don't usually get any hand issues
Mm.
with those Ergon corks that I ride.
Yeah.
Like, it's in the perfect grip.
Yep. I think I need to try those. Like I use the Ergon GA3s because I like love those for my day rides, and they're good, but I just like I I any system that I use, like it just doesn't really work. I mean, when you're riding for 4 days straight, 5 days straight, it's just not easy on your body.
Yeah, especially you when it is legitimately 4 days straight of riding,
Unreal.
no sleeping. Do you ride with bar ends?
I used to, but the GA3s didn't allow it, and I ran the GA2s, or the similar to the cork ones on the AZT this year, and I felt like the pad was just a little bit overdone, so I was like really just it just didn't give me like a good opportunity to like brake on the bike and like grip the bike. So I used the small GA3s, like the narrower one, and it just gave me a little bit more opportunity to like grip the bar and just feel comfortable, kind of like grip the bar but still be loose on the bar, if you know what I mean. But at the same time, I think now that like my hands were like gripped a little bit more, now it kind of like my hands mimic that position right now, like this whole past week, and so like my pinky doesn't like want to go straight. So just crazy little ultra endurance things that happen to us, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's always worth it as long as you finish.
Yeah, as long as you finish. Like, I pretty much would drag my crippled body across the finish line before quitting at this point. I've
Oh, yeah.
quit a couple times, and it is just
It sucks.
soul crushing.
Ooh, one question I had for you. You haven't done the Arizona Trail 750 yet, right?
No, I toured most of it.
Yeah.
They closed it for fires the year that I was trying to do the
Got it.
whole thing.
Oh,
So
okay. So that's on the list, I'm sure.
yeah, that's the plan for this fall,
Oh, okay,
actually.
cool. Sweet.
So that's like, the CT was it was like getting the training back up. I'm like, okay, come on, muscle memory, come on, body.
Yeah.
That's like the race that
Yeah.
I care. I've won the CT and the TD. It's
You've-
my goal to get all three of them.
Once you finish that one, you're going to be like, wow, that was hard, because hiking that canyon sucks so much, but embrace it, because it's beautiful. But man, I just dial in that backpack right now, because that's like the one thing that like is preventing me from ever doing that again, because it is so it's daunting. It's very daunting just to pedal 600 miles, and then you're like, all right, I'm at the Grand Canyon. I get to hike 21 miles now. 21 miles. Or maybe it's 24 or something. I don't know, but it's long.
I think it's around, I think it might be closer to 21 or something. Justin did that hike. What was his? He has like the fastest hike through the canyon out of anybody.
Wow.
And I am always like, he's my favorite person to ride with and to chase rather.
Sure.
I can never run as fast as him, but I chase him, and I'm always like asking him for tips and tricks and whatnot. So I'm kind of excited about that part. I keep teasing him. I'm like, I'm going to go faster than you in the canyon. And he's like, yeah, right. Okay. So I need to start doing some training so that I can actually beat him.
Yeah.
So that I can talk shit.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm excited. That's the last weekend in October, I think, right?
Yeah, I think it starts the 28th of October.
Cool.
So awesome. I hope to make it out to Arizona a few times between here now and then.
Oh, cool. Sweet. Yeah.
And get some heat training.
Oh, yeah.
So like it's the heat and the altitude, man, that crushed me.
Yeah. And it's that dry heat. Like humid heat's worse, but that dry heat with that high, like hot sun, it's just like desert living. It's just not easy.
Yeah. It's so painful. Yeah. It's so bad.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Alexandria, for joining and chatting and sharing your knowledge. It really is an honor to just chat with you for more time than just at the end of these races, and just keep kicking ass, and good luck on AZT, and have a great summer, and try not to work too much.
Funny. Thanks, Neil. Yeah, it's always good to see you, and thanks for being at the finish. That was fun.
Yeah, it was
good to catch up. You had a really good race too.
Yeah, it was fun. I'm glad I did it again. Why not, right?
All right. Well, thanks, Neil.
Yeah,
it was good to catch up.
Absolutely. We'll chat with you soon.
Sounds good. Peace out.
All right, later.